Round one, you weren't disappointed, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed for round two either, because we got Austin Linney,
Wait,
mindset
wait,
coach,
wait,
back.
wait, 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 wait. That's what she said. Good morning.
You know what's interesting? I, you know, why do I look forward to this conversation so much? Because I spend most of my days talking about the same thing, and I literally have no idea what we're going to talk about, and we can go so far to the bounds of my mind that it kind of excites me. That kind of that jolt. I think
she might have said that too, by the way.
She did. I was there. She definitely said that. No, and that's I think one of my favorite things about how I've kind of always done podcasts, and I'm so grateful, Jimmy, that you're the same way. Like there's so much that we could talk about, and our goal for this show when we first started doing it, when we first decided to do like 7 days a week, and then making sure that we do five days a week, was to have people come back a lot. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is people, we figured, and I think correctly, that if people start to understand and get to know people, not in like this is this project, they paid us $500, we're going to tell the story of this project and then never hear from them again. Right? Not that anyone in the space does exactly that over and over and over again, but like we want to create the characters, right? Like you're fucking fun and cool. If you just come on for 20 minutes and we do like what the fuck is Austin Linney doing? It's interesting. It's probably compelling content. It's just not like longer term. We wanted to kind of think in terms of like what happens when we develop a community that's a lot stickier.
One of the terms that really like threw me back with my podcast host is he went to a weekend convention about a very small group. About speaking and public speaking and how to tell your story and stuff, which is part of what I do with my clients is share the story.
Right.
It's this concept of selective vulnerability. So I'm only telling you this shitty part of my life. So over here, I look really, really good. And I was like, holy fuck, I've been doing that my whole life. Like I'm out there with the horn, tooting my own horn over here. Like, look at me. I was a drug addict and I was overweight and I was a piece of shit. But like, hey, I'm great. I'm healthy. I'm over here. But like, let's be honest. You want to hear the real truth? Sometimes I miss being a degenerate. Sometimes I love a good Tuesday getting fucking ripped up. I'm never going to drink again. But dude, you had those friends that you knew had nothing going on. And you called them up on a Tuesday, 10 o'clock, and you're like, hey, let's get shit canned today. And you never want to hear that from a recovery coach, but hey, it's the fucking truth.
I think that's super important for people to understand, because I think we can make a picture that it's not fair, right? Like that to suggest that you sort of get to a point where everything is just totally fine and you're just kind of sitting above it all or whatever. It's funny, like I went from, as a musician, drinking every single day like it was my job, because it kind of was, to now like I might drink once a month or whatever, and it saved my life. Like legitimately, my wife saved my life just by like making me chase her all over the country, which worked out really well. But like going back to Pasco County where I played all the time, I feel that like every time we go back there, I'm like, man, it'd be really fun to go and hang out, because dude, I'm really fun as a drunk. Ask Greg, who is sober for 25 years. He hates everyone who drinks. He's like, no, Corey should drink. He's fun, right? So, and it's great. But at the same time, like I go back for 5 seconds. Nothing there has changed. Everyone is doing exactly the same thing. There's absolutely no growth. And yet I still, every once in a while, like, man, it'd be really fun to hang out and get shit-faced with those guys, because I'm an idiot. It's a thing.
I tell everybody, I said, sometimes personal development can get too personal.
That's well said. And really, it's funny. And I think, I can't remember if I saw you actually on Facebook, or maybe it was somebody else. It was like my buddy Gus or something. Like, it's okay to grow past people. And I think, I wonder sometimes too, especially in this community where, we're, a bunch of contrarians on the bleeding edge of technology anyway, right? Like that, we're going to get out, in front of our own skis sometimes. And, there's people that just aren't going to get it. On top of like everybody who comes and hangs out watching this show, like we're all grinding, like we're fucking degens in a totally different way, right?
Well, and I what I like about that, especially when you say it, is how many times I've heard you say, like, my goal in life is to be the dumbest person in the room. So, like, you're chasing
For real.
everyone else, Corey, right? Like, and,
Yeah.
like right? And that, like, it's totally possible to outgrow other people. I think habits are really difficult to outgrow. And I think, you know, what you went through, Austin, is a hell of a story. And I don't mean to compare this to nominalize it, but I think that there's some frame of reference here. A friend of mine who was a heavy smoker, who quit after years and years and years of smoke. Like, we used to have smoke breaks in the middle of football games, right? Like, and so, like, you know, everybody else would be drinking water. We're ducked out. You know, where's Sean? Like, where's Jimmy? Like, where's our strikers? Oh, they're behind the net smoking. What the fuck, right? And but he always said, like, he quit before me.
Soccer games or football games you were playing.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was just like I just pictured you like at a Bucks game. You're like, I'm gonna go get a smoke or whatever. Like, that's
so,
totally.
But
you were
he,
playing. Okay.
Yeah, but he quit like a long time before me. And it's funny, like the advice that he gave me to quit, like, I didn't get it until after. But he said, you know what? Like, I'm an addict, right? Like, I'll always be a smoker. I just choose not to smoke. And I think that's one of the most important things to remember. Like, if you have a problem, right? Like, I quit, you know, a while ago, like, you know, not that long ago, but like couple years ago. And I mean, I was on a beach, you know, in Okinawa about a month ago. And for whatever reason, I was like, you know, I had, you know, some special Okinawan sake. And I was like in the middle of the countryside, and I was like, man, it'd be really nice to have a cigarette. Like, in the middle of the countryside where normally there would be no possible way to get a cigarette. But I knew that I was like a 3.5 minute walk away from a convenience store that just happened to be randomly located there. And all I had to do was suffer through the night and hope I didn't get bit by a big, deadly, poisonous habu and found dead on the side of the road in the morning. And what did I do? I stumbled to the convenience store. I bought a pack of butts. I bought a tuna sandwich because I thought, maybe if I eat this tuna sandwich, I won't smoke. But I got outside and I'm like, I'm going to smoke, but I'm going to eat the tuna sandwich first because I just really like tuna. And I smoked the whole pack and I felt like shit. I woke up in the morning at 4 a.m. in the morning. I took a photo of the sunrise and I mailed my good friend Corey with a bunch of like really weird spam. I love you. This is awesome. Like, thank you. I fell asleep in bed, and for the next week, I regretted it, partially because I felt like shit, and partially because I didn't take any of my clothes off before I fell asleep, so I was sleeping on sand for the next week. But yeah, I mean, that was like and I'm sure like it happens to you too, right? Like, have you ever gotten to the point, like you must have, where you've you know, not been able to reel yourself in, and how do people deal with that? We kind of talked about the addict part last time, but we didn't really talk about this part, you know?
Well, you know, funny, I don't know why that invoked this, but I've never told this story. So I was 90 days, 110 days sober, went to go visit a friend who I've known for a long time. And I said, listen, prove it to yourself that you can't drink. Like, you're fucking good. Like, go get you a nice bottle of whiskey. So we got a nice bottle of whiskey. I was hanging out at his house. I hadn't seen him in a long time. And we wound up talking about life and investing and just forgot to drink. Like, I literally like just forgot to like open the bottle, right? And I've been sober for like a year and a half, and that was the last time I ever purchased alcohol. And he said, you do know that bottle's still sitting there at my house. We never opened it. And I said, leave it there. I said, don't ever touch it. It's a symbol, because this could be totally different, right? And I think one of the biggest things that people have to understand is, if you want to quit smoking, I'll use smoking as a reference. If you want to quit smoking, it's about the personal dialogue in your head first. And the like, I just had this conversation yesterday with somebody. Drinking or smoking or doing anything bad has nothing to do with your actual front reality. It is all based in subconscious patterns. I was taught when I was a young kid, you work a hard day, you have a drink. Like, the drink tastes better. And so for me, one of the biggest things I ever had to overcome was traveling and not drinking. Like, I love to travel. And so that's just it. I jump off the plane, we're in Costa Rica, like, we're drinking, we're hanging out. And so when I did that for 10 days, I reset my whole subconscious, and I was like, you can totally do this. But it was like relearning. You're literally relearning. You know, and this is the big thing that they're on now. There was a study like years ago where they said people, like especially older adults, can't relearn stuff. but that they found out that's total horseshit. Like neuroplasticity, you can grow your mind, you can change your mind. And so it's really about saying, if you want to quit smoking, no, I'm healthy, I don't smoke. Say that for 30 days straight. And then when you have a cigarette in your hand, you go, I don't even know why I have this in my hand. Because picking up
you create the cognitive that's around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really found that health was what I hung my hat on. Right. And when I started doing that, like dude, I could tell you right now, I could spot out 30 of them that are former addicts that are ultra marathon runners. Like they're addicted to shit, but they're addicted to running. I'd much rather that than fucking get blacked out drunk,
Makes way more sense. I'll be right back, guys.
Well, it's funny because like you mentioned that, and like Corona times and things are happening. I spend a lot more time on the computer now than I used to. I've got a small kid now, so I'm putting on weight, right? Like I'm working on my dad bod, and it's coming along really nice, but I'm not really happy about that. So after we had this conversation with you, it was funny because you mentioned the first time that you were on the show, like there's a reason that a lot of addicts, they run, right? And I like to play football still, right? And so I wanted to play, and I was walking down the river the other, like, a couple of days after we had met that time. And I like to go, there's this cascading water that comes down the river that I like to sit at, and it kind of can clear my thoughts. And so I was going to, sit down there. I walked down there. There's a couple high school kids making out. So I was like, I'll watch them for a little bit. And then I kept, just kidding. I kept walking. And I was like, okay, I'll walk to the bridge. And I saw all these old dudes running. And I was thinking about, the show that I do with Corey. And I was thinking about like just talking to you, because it wasn't that long ago after we had talked. And I got to the other side and I'm like, man, like I'm going to run. And like, I never run. I hate running. And I ran, and it's really interesting because like I started running like a little bit, like I kind of overdid it. I blew my knee out actually, but but like you're right, like it can actually become addictive because you're running and you're thinking and you're clearing your mind in a whole new kind of way, right? Maybe it comes down to that idea that like nothing, energy is not created or destroyed. It's just displaced. It becomes something else. And if you replace that unhealthy addiction with that healthy one, no matter what it might be, even it comes down to like over investing and going bankrupt.
Yeah.
Like 100 times.
Dude, I just did a podcast about this. I just did a Friday rant because I'm rereading the book right now. By the way, will set your hair on fire, blow the brain out of the back of your body, called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. It's a book he wrote in 1930 that was so controversial they didn't release it till 1980. His family wouldn't do it. And he has an imaginary conversation with the devil. And he says that the devil is basically clear space for negative thoughts, like meaning that one of the things that's very important is you have to know yourself, right? And so I am over investing. They almost like to do it because then they can have the excuse to say, well, but I went for it and look at me. Here's the scary things they won't tell you. They actually enjoy when they go bust because then they have something to bitch about for the next year. Like, it sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually part of the toxic relationship we have with money, drugs and alcohol and everything. They actually become the martyr and they enjoy it, right? And so it's this thing the number one thing that we have to remove from society is to think that there's balance. There's not balance. It doesn't exist. But what you can balance is, what I only care about is control of my schedule, control time balance. If I control my calendar, and if I want to work 16 hours one day, then I do. If I don't want to work at all, I work at all. And that's a choice. But when I'm in work, I'm working, and we're getting it done, and we're going. And so it's this delicate dance. But one of my favorite quotes from my buddy Rick Alexander, who's a pretty great dude. He said, "You can't perform at your best while simultaneously beating yourself up for not performing at your best."
Yeah, I talk about giving myself and my team permission to fail, and it has a dramatic shift sometimes especially for high performers, people that are used to high performing. They'll start to make goals that are reasonable, and it's just fear. It's like something else in their past or something else in the organization is like, given this sense that like they might be on the bubble, and if they don't achieve at a high level, then we're going to be screwed or whatever. I'm like, no. I give you full, absolute, total permission to fail, but I definitely don't give you permission to set a stupid fucking goal. Because like we work with geniuses. If you set a tiny goal, if you aim small, you will hit small, and like none of your brilliance comes out, and that's fucking boring. It's just boring, right? Like we're in startups to be excited, which is why I set goals that like even my team are like, your goals are fucking stupid. Yeah, the uplift was stupid. Nobody, like I talked to so many people about the uplift before we launched. Everyone fucking laughed at me until I met Blue, and he's crazier than me. He's like, fuck it, let's do it. Right.
Dude, I have a guy that I talk to every day. I've helped him get his Airbnb. Dude, super successful. I had dreams. Like I was like, man, like I'm gonna do this and this. I met this motherfucker. He had me thinking, like, I was like, I need to fucking write some new dreams. Like, he's like, hey, he's like, here's the deal. I own a property in Montana and Colorado. I'm gonna buy a blimp, and what we're gonna do is you can stay in the Colorado property, and then we're gonna blimp you over from fucking Colorado to Montana. And he was like, oh yeah, and I'm gonna build a on top of the water city, shipping container city, where we grow our own vegetables. I'm like, I need to go back and rewrite my fucking goals. This dude's fucking crushing it. Like, you meet the people because they allow themselves the ability. I just interviewed this guy. He wrote a book. He actually works with companies where he thinks there's a big difference between dreams and goals. Goals are things that you do. Dreams are things that you want and desire. And so if you write your life in dreams, then you actually probably attain more of those things because there's something that you truly love inside.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me personally, like if you ask anyone that knows me, like I'm horrible at like planning things into the future, but that actually makes me, work. Like it makes me constantly like thinking about like, like I invest and do other things, right? But like, with a lot of investments, you're not planning on touching them or living off of them, right? So you live life on the edge in that way. It's quite interesting. I want to go back to what you said, because I think it's interesting. Like everyone always tells you from the time that you're in elementary school, like, right, you need balance, right? But like there's this like definition of balance that is these two scales like that are like on the same T plane, and it's ridiculous. Another good friend of mine, what he always says, and it's interesting. He's like, the meaning of life is fluid. That's it. It's fluid, right? It depends on your mood. It depends on your situation. It depends on your circumstance. It depends on who pissed you off and who made you happy yesterday. That's the balance that you need. It's going to be different for every single person, every single moment of every single day. And like you said, you're always battling against that within yourself to be able to bring out your higher self, your best self. And I mean, you might have to port that if a bus crashes in front of you, right?
So I think part of, and I think y'all would respect this too, and I don't like know what you do every day, but I realized something about a month ago, is that I realized that I just don't give a shit anymore. Like I just don't care. I had no fear. Like it's like whatever. Like we're gonna create. But what I realized why I had no fear is because as a coach, a consultant for multiple people, I have to be the first guy in the burning building, and then when I have been pushed around and failed and lost money and tried something new and got in NFTs, then I can turn around and consult people on said thing. And so now it's like, if that's my perspective, then it's like, okay, well, we're just going to go dump in these deep waters of places I don't have any idea, because, I had a client approach me last week, and he's like, do you think that we could have a fund to buy commercial real estate solely based on getting guys that are invested in crypto transfer their money into hard assets? And I was like, first of all, you just gave me wood. I was like, second of all,
yeah, this nipple's hard right now, actually. That's a little embarrassing. Woo.
No, but it's like those kind of things. It's like, hey, well, if I wouldn't have met you guys, I wouldn't even know that's possible. So by me getting out of my comfort zone, now I have the resources available for that client to execute this pretty quickly. And so
smart.
That's what
top of this bull market's coming in like 3 to 6 months. There's going to be a lot of people looking for a lot of places to store a lot of fucking capital.
Exactly. And so what you realize when you invest in real estate, right? And you're like, this dude's really wealthy. Why does he have all his money in real estate? Well, because he doesn't want to keep it in banks because they could just take it if something goes south. You know, it's like,
I mean, and the even best case scenario, it's deflationary, right? Like if you store it, like, you know, your buying power is going to decrease over time. If you store it in real estate in, you know, 9/10 of the countries in the world, the property value goes up. So when you cash out, when you sell that out, plus it's working for you, right? Like you can have a 10-year plan to sell it out, but you're still, you know, paying off the mortgage, worst case again, and then having a little bit of spending money on the side with the money that you're renting it out for, right? It's nuts, you know. And I think of people who, like, I have a friend who, you know, I guess people buy and sell, but like for me, I don't know if I would ever buy a place to actually live in it. I think I might buy a place to, like, you know, stay for a while and then rent it out. But like buying a place to live in, to me, just seems like a little bit strange, because then I'm going to have to work to pay it off. I could buy a place to you know, rent out, and then have that place work to pay my rent, and then do crazy stuff like we do here, like slay dragons every day. Not every day, but sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. That's my thinking. But a lot of people come into the world thinking you have to, you know, get married, put a mortgage down on a house, you know, settle down, get a job, you know, with good benefits so that you live long enough to see retirement. And that's your life. And I was thinking about my dad, you know, my dad, he was a foreman when he was 16. And he just said, fuck it, you know, when he was 18, and he bought a farm. You know, he was in the town. He bought a farm and he moved out and he bought a farm. And I was just thinking about what that life looks like back in the 1960s, 1970s, right? Like it probably looked really promising, but today it looks like shit. Like it's like, well, it looks pretty bad, right?
I don't want to go. I try to stay out of the conspiracy realm, although I know y'all like to dip your toe in that water.
No, we don't. Conspiracies are fucking stupid. Bring data or shut the fuck up. My personal opinion.
Fair enough, but if you look at farming as a whole, you know, they're making it really hard on third and fourth generations to keep it up the way that they're, you know, crushing them with regulations and fees. And it used to be something back in the 1960s or 50s that was pride. You know, it was pride in what we did, and I'm trying to wrap my head around where we're headed, and I think one of the things that I try to remind myself is you can't really make sense of insanity. You know, I mean, it is what it is. So,
well, and to clarify, I don't have a problem with the farm, because that can work for you, right? And you can be your own boss. Like that's kind of cool, right? But like in Canada these days, like just to afford a farm, it's almost impossible, right? Like they're overpriced. So what most people are doing now is they're moving into this, right? They're moving into the cities.
Like big that's the thing. Like big agribusiness, they can come and buy up your land. And, you know, they've got, you know, it's being centralized because it's more efficient, right? Like the same thing going on, and more efficient in air quotes, right? Because they give up a lot to do that, right? And not to mention the nutrition capacity, the food, blah, 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 blah. It's like the Amazonification of agriculture has been going on for 50 years, right? As things become more efficient, you buy up more stuff, you can afford more stuff, you buy more stuff, and that just, you know, goes until farmers can't afford not to sell anymore. And then, you know, it just becomes industrialized and fucking lame. I mean, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's just fucking real.
Well, is it? I think one of the interesting things for me is that the ultimate scenario is that we're obtaining things, right? Or we're in the rat race to obtain things that we think are going to make us happy, when ultimately those things don't make you happy. Like one of the greatest stories I ever told is the guy that owned Tom's Shoes. He was on Ed Milet, and he said that he got a $350 million wire transfer from selling his company, and he went into depression for fucking 6 months. Like he couldn't get out of bed. And everybody's like,
you know what? This is weird. I believe it.
He said,
it's strange.
I lost my purpose. I lost everything.
Right.
I lost
Like
everything.
it's now like I've been, because we're planning for the bear market, right? And I think it's like maybe like probably 3 months, maybe 6 months, but it's inevitable, right? And again, like NFTs, we might not feel it, fine, right? But we might also. So we gotta prepare for this shit. Being at this level of grind, like we joke about like we never sleep. Like it's gonna be fun to take a nap. Will it though? Right? Like I've never been grinding as hard as I am right now in my whole life. And there are days when like I literally stare at the wall with nothing left. But it's kind of fucking awesome.
Do you feel fulfilled?
Yeah. I mean, this morning.
And so the question is, am I supposed to take Corey? And what do they tell you, right? Well, just go sit on the beach somewhere. I'm like, go fuck yourself. Like, that sounds like the biggest torturous treatment ever. Like,
here's what's messed up though. Like, I actually got out of a depression by going to visit the sunrise at the beach every day for 6 months. So I'm a little bit of an edge case on that one. But again, like more than an hour, like I think I will experience. I'm gonna experience boredom in a totally new way now, because I've managed to find an environment and an ecosystem where apparently I'm not dumb and I can use what little intelligence I have to like move very, very big weights with very, very efficient levers.
Well, then what's more important to you? The dollar amount you have in your bank account or the social status that you have within your community?
The social status, I could give a fuck. It's weird. I honestly don't care about that, and it makes me weird when other people do. But that the ability to actually make change is like this morning. I was like drinking coffee this morning, and I was playing Civilization, which is how I turn my brain off, which is not super. It's kind of weird, but like I have to do other stuff with my brain to get the rest of my brain to shut up for a minute. Anyway, so like I'm doing that, and I'm feeling kind of useless, right? Because like I'm not like actively changing the world at this particular moment, right? And Blue messages me with like 5 questions, and immediately my brain goes into freaking overdrive, and we solve a bunch of problems for Yoshi Drops. Not even problems, just like future challenges or whatever. I'm like, man, I was like, I could quit today. Like I brought the genius already today. And I'm like, I'm done. And that was like 2 hours before work, right? And so like that, I don't think that's gonna go away, because we're already thinking about things we could do with Uplift, Donate, and right. So we're gonna figure all that stuff out. But I like, if I was working on one project, and we sold that project, and the next day there was nothing, that's like the getting your rug pulled, right? Even on the weekends, I feel like this sometimes. We grind so freaking hard during the week. And I was telling my wife this weekend. On Saturday, it's like, if you ever driven stick and you're gunning it and you just rip it out of gear, right? And suddenly the motor just goes, that's what Saturday morning feels like for me. Right? Because my brain's still going at 600,000 miles an hour, but there's no road there. I'm not actually in gear. And so it's weird to kind of do whatever this is.
What did you say to me? I think you said it to me this morning or last night. I woke up to an email from you, and it was like, man, I gotta do shit in the real world, but like it kind of sucks because I just want to work. And like,
my 10-year anniversary weekend to the woman of my dreams. They're like, yeah, but Blue Deck is gonna launch soon. Like, I need to fucking get my head right. Some balance or some bullshit. I don't know. I'm not good at that either.
But I think like but we do. It's interesting because you must have cases of this too, right? That you've heard in your travels, Austin. Like, there's the guy who went into depression, but then there's people who like just mess everybody else around them up because they throw all of that crazy overdrive like into the person that they love, or like into their kids or like something like that. Like and it's it must be difficult to overcome that too.
No, I just signed a new coaching client, and this is my joke because this is what especially men do this. It's like, you fucking grind your fucking face off for 20 years, and you're working and you're fucking grinding and you're giving them all the things that they want. You turn around and you look at your kids and your spouse and you're like, hey, I did this for you. And they look at you in the face and go, no, we didn't ask for any of this. You did this for yourself, asshole. Yeah. But we're saying it over and over again in our minds,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, this really what has been the animating thing for me is for the last 10 years, I've been learning how to become an entrepreneur and learning about tech and learning about cryptocurrency, specifically because I was a musician before. Still, kind of am sometimes. But my wife, since we got together, has made all the money, right? But she's also never had a week and a half off in her life. She went from super smarty pants school to super smarty pants doctorate to super smarty pants job, and it's just been that way. And she never asked me to do anything other than what I'm doing, and that I think got under my skin more than anything, because I have been, for the last 20 years, I've been able to get up in the morning. 10 years before I met her too. This is how I designed my life. Even living simply as a musician, I want to be able to wake up Monday morning and have no fucking clue what I'm going to do that day, right? Yeah. I get to decide at the risk of everything else, right? I'll make $2,000 a month. I don't give a fuck. It literally doesn't matter. But I own my own time ruthlessly, right? And it's always been that way. And she's never once experienced that. So I wake up every single morning, think, okay, how do I get to this point where I can make $100,000 a year, right? Well, that's probably not going to work. I'm going to have to take moonshot after moonshot after moonshot to figure out how to do even better than that. Right. And now, I really am getting to the point now where, towards the end of this year, there's a non-zero probability I'm going to be able to turn to her and say, listen, you get to decide now. And it's actually the first day that you get up in the morning, you're probably gonna be scared out of your fucking mind. And the first few months are going to be uncomfortable. Right. But I want that for you. That level of uncomfort is fantastic, because then you're going to have to wrestle with, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? I literally am doing this for her. But at the same time, when you get in it, it's not just for her now, because if I had all the money in the world, I'd still be building the Uplift.
Yeah,
because I owe it to this community to make sure that the vision of this that we all bought into gets realized to the utmost of all of our abilities, right? So it's definitely not just that, but it was that for all.
There's two things in life that always find a place if you don't have a place for them. It's time and money. And if you let's say that you pay off a bill and that money doesn't have a designated place, it's going to find a place. And it's the same thing with your time, right? And here's what's interesting is one of the jokes is, I'm standing in my mentor's hotel that he just bought 5 days ago. We live here now on the lake in Lake Tahoe, and this is his third one. He plans to buy 80 more, right? And I told him, I said, my greatest thrill in my entire life would be to be a millionaire and still working for you, because I love this human and what he stands for and his vision and what he can bring to the table and the way that we interact and how we're aligned. So this doesn't feel like anything to me. It feels like, hey, really fucking great. Let's go change the world. Let's create jobs. And it doesn't really, what's interesting, right, is that as I build up a media company and we're working on this behind the scenes and I'm trying to build up this infrastructure, this ridiculous ecosystem, the managers in that company have never once asked me what they're getting paid. Never once. They care more about the mission and the vision, and they know if they handle that, the rest will get taken care of.
That trust is so critical, right? Yeah, 100%. If you're there and you and that's, it's funny too. I was just reading this article about Amazon, the Blue Origins or whatever, their little dick rocket, which is fucking pathetic and would actually fit in the BFR. I tell this story all the time. Sorry for anyone who doesn't like rockets. You're on the wrong show. So Amazon released this, or somebody from their team releases this thing that's basically about the toxic work culture at Blue Origin and how it's terrible and blah, 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 blah. And they want people to work on weekends. And oh my God, SpaceX is eating a lunch. SpaceX always will. And this is the difference. SpaceX literally is all about the vision. And it's not just a slogan, we're going to go, make human beings multiplanetary, right? They put everything on the line from the top down and always have, right? When everyone told them they were going to fail, they were doing it. And, Blue Origin is just a little dick rocket fucking wannabe. Fine, right? But they're like, oh, we got to make people, work longer, and we got to do this, and we got to do this. And they're trying to copy the functions that SpaceX does and gets away with without adding the vision onto it. If you don't have the vision, the reason why people are going to work themselves to the bone at SpaceX until they burn out is because they know it's worth it. Stock in what's going to be the largest company maybe ever, right? This SpaceX is going to be able to launch 100 people into space many, many times a day with one rocket. What? It's fucking insane, right? And so that, and it comes down to the vision. That, if they didn't have that, and if it wasn't real, right? You can't just have, because we've talked to marketing people, oh, what's your vision slogan? Who fucking cares? It doesn't matter, right? I could say the vision statement 6,000 different ways. I'm not going to make some fucking slogan that's like really easily digestible. We mean it. We're making a metaverse that's going to have real economy.
Well, and one of the great things about working for a company like this, like I've known MBlue for a long time, right? Like way back in the day when we were doing cool stuff. But I remember, you know, when Corey and MBlue started putting the Uplift together, and it started, you know, to become more of just, you know, a figment of imagination in a way. We were talking about it, and it's like, well, what if somebody like, you know, steals the idea? What if somebody comes in and they replicate the world? And I can't remember whether it was MBlue or whether it was Corey or together, or maybe like our awesome CEO basically said, it's impossible. You can't replicate the world because it's built on foundations of gratitude. And it's got this soul that like exists. And no matter what anyone takes, they're not going to be able to take that community spirit. They're not going to be able to take the passion of Corey, the founder. They're not going to be able to take the tenacity of all of these people that have worked so hard to bring this into play. It's not just a Minecraft game. It's not just a metaverse. It's that whole existence of that scenario that makes it what it is today. And now we're a few months down the road, and we add to that the people who come on the show, the people who are in the world, the people who are, you know, earning Upliftium and putting it to work, displaying, you know, images in galleries or creating events. And it's just like, it's just, you know, exponentialized itself to a point where like we can't even pinpoint what the soul is anymore. There's so many souls mingling around, you know, in these ulterior universes of, you know, consciousness, all melding into one. It's like, that's the best I can do, and it makes zero sense, but it makes all the sense in the world in here as a feeling, as an emotion, and as a place that I want to be. Yeah.
Well, doesn't, I love this because it invokes something inside of me. Then doesn't that give me ultimate freedom in my coaching business because nobody can be me? So I truly have a gift that I create, I transform people, and so I never have to worry about business ever again because there's no competition because I'm uniquely me. And so you either drive with that or you don't. There's not much I can do from there.
And you don't have to, right? That's really, and that I think what gives you the opportunity to operate without fear, which is such a gift, which like I know you know that. Like getting to that point where you know, this has been called guys, you know, we're part of Legend now, and like, you know, everybody at Legend, they're all like pros. They've been in a bunch of businesses or whatever, and you know, I'm like, the joke was before we started this, and both Blue and Michelle started yelling at me every time I said it, is I would tell everyone I'm just a guitar player all the time. Apparently, a little bit more than that. And I had to train myself to stop doing that. But it's been interesting to see some people operate from a position of zero-sum mentality or lack. And because I just like righteously don't give a fuck, and I'm amazed that any of this is happening anyway, right? Like I get to operate without fear. Like all of this is insane. Like, and it's all a privilege. And I get, you know, and maybe it's the gratitude practice that kind of makes that a little bit easier, right? Like I'm grateful for this. We do this every day. We'll pull it up. We'll do that in a little bit here. But it lets me move without fear of it all going away because it, you know, it's all new. But so then we can actually innovate and get over stuff that some people I think get bogged down by sometimes.
I wanted to find this because it really struck me. My branding guy that I work with every day was talking about like he learned from working side by side with me. He said, I guess I'm inspired by your capacity to move forward with determination and total absence of self-doubt. He's like, you just don't give a shit. But like, understand that like the reason to get here was like, I had to get like railed in the face and punched and my life blown up and lost money and all these things because what's the other option? And kind of my joke is like, what do you want me to go do? Be a perfect salesman at Abercrombie? Like I made a choice. You know, I had a coaching client, right? He said, hey, I chose to go on my own. He's made more money than he's ever made in a short amount of time. And he goes, it just doesn't feel certain. And I go, hey, idiot, you picked entrepreneurship. It's the fucking game. Like, but there's also no ceiling. I said, it's like being mad at a roller coaster for being a roller coaster. It's just fucking nature. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
like, really, it's you just got to grind to the point where you have way too much. It was like when I was a musician, right? If you have like one gig for the week, you're like, oh shit, I'm totally fucking screwed. But you just keep working every day till you have 9 gigs a week. You can't fucking sleep because you're too tired. right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how you do it.
What did they say? They say don't be mad when you ask for a full plate and you have a shitload to eat.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and it's funny too. And I always harken back to the bear market for everybody in crypto. Like that's the real rite of passage. But when I first started gigging as a musician, my buddy and I, my duo partner and I, went out like every day, did free demos at every bar that had gigs. We just like set up and say, hey, can we play for an hour? Like, how much does it cost? Fucking, we've never met you. Like, let us just play for an hour. Give us a beer if you want. And we play. Like, even for being new, pretty good. Like, oh, you guys should come back and do a show. Okay. Like, at the 20 odd times we did that, most turned into like 5-year relationships where it really made us a living. Right. So we were grinding and doing that kind of thing or whatever. We've come to find out from musicians as we start to be more than that we're playing around. Like, man, how are you guys doing 7 gigs a week? That's fucking crazy. Well, worked the entire last 6 months. Yeah, but it was downtime. We didn't. No one told us that the downtime in like a season. We were just working, and because we were grinding when nobody else was, when nobody else could get, right. And now it's even easier in crypto, in the bear market. And you'll watch, like, everything's going to get quiet. It's going to be different this time because NFTs are they don't give a fuck about the bear market at all. Like people are going to be doing businesses. Like Uplift isn't going to be slowing down. We're going to pivot to no coiner marketing, which is a lot of shit to do, right? But in crypto generally, the people that work the entire way, and like all this last crypto cycle, I fucking volunteered like every day for any company that would have me at all doing shit the entire time. That's how I met Blue. That's how I met Jimmy. Whole 9 yards, right? You work through that, you position yourself in front of the next wave, and just crazy shit happens. It just does.
Well, it's not about the money for you. It's about learning, getting skill sets, creating this thing. And because it's that, like, your emotions are not going to be dictated on like the swings of the market because it's investment.
Right.
It goes up and it goes down.
Right.
Like, welcome.
Yeah, you definitely have to be positioned to the point where it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but that's not what people are doing. What they're doing is they're putting their hopes and dreams on an investment, thinking it's going to change their life and give them freedom. But there's more of a process. And by the way, just because
yeah, they're already spending the shit that they don't have, which means that when things break, they get frustrated. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, by the way, because he's mentioned it a couple of times, and he doesn't know this about me, but for 3.5 years of my life, I was a road manager for country brands from Texas. I went all over the country. And I think musicians are the weirdest motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. You have not lived until you spent
That's
7
true.
hours in a van. 7 hours in a van with an alcoholic piano player, a drummer that's 50 years old and can't keep a relationship because they've got the best women in the world, women that actually give a shit about them for some reason.
Yeah.
And they're bitching and moaning that they're being too suffocating. And I was like, hey, you're lucky you can even have sex. Like, seriously, like, you know, and like, it's just such a weird personality trait to drive all day, go to sound check, sit around, play till night, drink too much, and then do the next thing. It's a really issue. But the greatest thing that ever happened to me ever. There's no chance that you know who this guy is because you don't listen to country, but it's fine. But there's this guy named Joe Diffie, old school country dude. His stepson was his backup singer, right? And we're playing in front of him, and he's the backup singer. That's all he is. And so he comes in. It's 4:00. He is annihilated on Jack Daniels. I mean, like fucking hammered. He walks up to me. He goes, "Watch this hot shit." He slams his mic in the thing. He goes, "Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3," and slams his fucking mic down. He goes, "I'm checked, bitches," and just walks off the stage. And the drummer spends the next 2 hours setting up his drums. And I'm like, they're just so many stories of just like unique personalities. And it really takes a special kind of character to love what you do so much and not get paid for it. Like, that's really what you're doing. You love what it makes you feel. But I'm telling you, we played in front of 10,000 people. And I will never, ever, ever be able to describe that feeling to human beings. it felt like the world was shaking. Like seriously, like the energy and the people yelling and happy. Like it was really one of the most unique experiences of my life.
Yeah, being a musician is pretty cool. But I am somewhat famous for calling musicians bitchy little girls because most of them are. Like going like on the road in Canada with bands, like the first thing they try to tell me with the band is like, hey, what happens on the road stays on the road. And I'm like, yeah, I've met your wife. No. Like, I'm not gonna fucking lie for you, you little dick. Like, that's just sorry. And they kept letting me come on tour with them, which was nice of them. So that's fun.
No, it's my buddy worked for this big guy. He remains nameless, and he used to tell me stories like he had his own bus, dude, which is like cocaine and porn on 24/7, and like pounds of marijuana.
That's dedication, is what that is.
And he wouldn't speak to the band directly, but he would speak to the road manager, and he'd be like, I hate that color, that shirt the bass player's wearing. He needs to change it. Like that's how fucking retarded.
Wow. See, that's I've met so many like guys with frontman-itis, like that, like just the diva thing it's amazing. And people, it's weird. People actually some people, I should say, are kind of addicted to that. This is why they end up being a frontman, and that doesn't immediately go to the dustbins of history, as they should be. It's a weird thing that we hyper intelligent monkeys sometimes do. But yeah, it's weirdos.
So, Jimmy, what do you think, from an outsider point of view, for anybody listening, as I learn more and more and more and more about the crypto space, what do you think is the number one thing that people have wrong or they don't understand when it comes to just investing in crypto or NFTs?
I mean, most of them just need to take a little bit of time to understand what it is, right? Because I think like most people just think that it's dangerous, but it's all in proportion, really. I mean, you know, it's like the difference between being on a kiddie roller coaster and a giant roller coaster, right? And so if you're looking at crypto from like 0.% gains or 0.% moves, a 20% move in a day looks really scary. And so what happens, I think a lot of times, Corey's better at this than me, but like what happens a lot of times is traders come in and they'll be like, holy shit, I just made like 20% in 2 days. And then the market will turn around and they'll go down 5% or down 30% and they sell everything. And they're just like, wow, this is too fast. This game isn't for me. But it's just the idea of like not pinning the allocation of risk to the movements that exist, right? And adjusting to that time frame, in my opinion. And I think when it comes to, I don't think that the second one though is necessarily misguided, but I think when it comes to getting into crypto, it's just a real freaking pain in the ass. Like figuring out a wallet, then downloading it, having to worry about gas fees, all of this other stuff. And then like, you hear about scammers and stuff like that. So the media tends to pick out all of these bad things. But I mean, I get more scams to my regular email address than I do to any of my crypto accounts, right? Like I'm just smart enough not to know that like, Joe, who I don't know, is not my friend, and he's not stranded in Africa and needs like $100,000 to get home, right? Like I'm just right. My grandma might not be smart enough to know that, unfortunately, right? Because a lot of these scams target older people, right? But I think it's just something new, right? And like I'm definitely by no means am I like good. I'm a professional, right? Like I'm a writer, like. And writers in some senses they're kind of like teachers, right? They write about things because they can see things and they can put them on paper, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're great at it, right? Like I've written about trading before, but I'm an absolute horrible trader, right? Like I can't trade to save my life, right? Which kind of saves me because I hodl and in a way I can actually kind of do better, right? But I've seen lots of things go to zero. I mean, I've got scammed, I've lost money, I've sent things to the wrong contract, but like I think people think, to answer your question very simply, maybe people think that crypto is one thing. It's not. There's a whole bunch of different things, right? There's gaming, there's NFTs, there's different tokens, there's different blockchains, there's different platforms. And the world on CNBC or CBS all they see on that 10-second news segment is Bitcoin and a 10% move up or a 30% move down. You know, I think it was Corey who didn't you say you had experience with this? You counter traded one of those major media channels for a bit, and you like made out like you know.
Yeah, you can actually trade on when CNBC is saying it's a bear market and win.
Right.
Just go long every single time a major publication says Bitcoin is dead. You're good.
It's awesome. My buddy,
that's actually like over long enough time frames. It's always true, so it's kind of not fair.
My buddy that got me into crypto and gave me my first $100. He posted something the other day. He said, "You know what I do? If China hates something or trying to get rid of it, he goes, I'm all in."
That's yep. That'll work. Generally speaking, it's also true, and this is something I've been trying to caution people about. In a bull market, everyone's right, except for the shorts. You stupid bastards like that. You know, have fun while you can, and before you get wrecked, because you will. Yeah, like you could throw a dart at this market and win. Like it's a bull market. That's what the whole thing's about, right? And so then everybody thinks they're a genius, and you know, in about 3 to 6 months, everyone's gonna find out what happens when you think you're a genius and try to ride it.
I'm gonna leave you with this for all you real estate guys out there. If you really understand the deeper meaning behind what's going on when you see the government pumping money into the economy, all these things that they're passing, they're delaying the time on them to coincide with the next election. So they look really good when they release some money. And the problem is that they're basically false pumping money into the economy and low interest rates. You know, one of the jokes I saw this morning was now the dollar store is a $2 store. Watch out, you know? Like
I mean, they have a 3-coin store in Japan, which is essentially $3, right?
Yeah, it's really, you're not going to see most of this until like 3 or 4 years down the road, but it's coming. So you need to diversify.
I would say that it's really probably getting into crypto for the first time and not really knowing that much about it isn't probably much different than getting into real estate, right? Like we hear these stories of people who bought, you know, downtown Vancouver, they bought this pad, they fixed it up and they made millions. Well, I mean, they bought it 10 years ago when it was worth like 50 grand and Vancouver wasn't barely even on the map. And, you know, like now, you know, when they're ready to retire and they have kids, right? It just blew up, right? But how, like, there's probably way more people that lose money in real estate than make it, right? Like,
all day long.
Yeah.
No, and the thing is that they're chasing the next shiny object, and they're not. Their investing strategy isn't based off of principles; it's based off of emotion. Simple as that. You know,
and I mean, if I ever buy an apartment or a house that I want to make money on real estate, I'm not going to buy it in a shithole hoping that like somebody beyond my control turns it around and this becomes like the next big, you know, suburb of Casino Town 10 clicks down the road, because it could be the other side. We don't know. I'm going to buy a place that's probably a little bit more expensive in an area that if everything goes to shit, at least I'll have a place to live, right?
Dude, if you want to make money, if you want to make money in real estate, just buy a good school district. Well,
and you buy a place that like is probably a little bit more expensive than the bottom of the barrel, right? And it's the same with crypto, right? Like there's a lot of people who come into the space as first timers and they see something like, you know, a chart that shows like when Bitcoin went from $100 to $1,000, right? Or like when Ethereum went from $150 to what's it at now? Like, I don't even know it's like $4,000 or something, right? Like $150 to $4,000. And then they look at it and they're like, Ripple and Cardano, they look really good. And they're only like 50 cents. So if I buy a whole bunch of those and the price goes to 10 grand, I'm going to be a millionaire. They're not paying attention to overreaching supply. They're not paying attention to any of these other things. They're just looking at a chart, as Corey likes to point out, as dumb monkeys, two physical representations that like could not even have numbers on them. And their brain goes, oh yeah, right. Like I buy this low value coin and it's got the potential to be the next Bitcoin. No, it doesn't. The majority of them don't.
Here's what's fun. If you get enough of those monkeys together, you have Dogecoin and it works. So like there's power in that. Whether it's useful or not, it doesn't matter to the numbers, right? Like supply and demand economics don't give a fuck about your feelings. Doge is like fucking really expensive now, which is amazing and insane. and all the more power to him because it's fucking glorious.
Well, and if you're friends with Elon Musk, you can pretty much buy anything. Just tell him
I
to book it, and it
mean,
works, right?
You know that guy bought Doge's cheap, and he's like, "Oh, this Doge's pretty interesting." Like, it's just, yeah, he can't manipulate the normal markets, but you can do whatever the fuck you want with crypto. So that's
so
fun.
I'm gonna send Jimmy. I need to have. I'm probably gonna have to shut down my podcast after this, but that's okay because we had a good run. But I want to have both y'all on my podcast, and we'll just talk about whatever y'all want to talk about. We'll really go.
That'd be
wild.
great.
So,
Yeah, we. Totally
you
want
direct
to
it. I won't mention this nipple more than twice.
Dude, hey, true story. I hope he's not watching. I've only not released one episode ever, and I've never told anybody that because, dude, I got on like 20 minutes on this thing, and I was like, this dude is either drunk or out of his mind. I don't know what's going on. And he started making fun of like mental health, and I was like, I don't think you need to. And he like called me afterwards, and he's like, I think I was a little out of control there, and I was like, yeah, you basically made fun of me for being sober, and like I was like, that's probably not a good move, you know. And I didn't say anything, but like we've gone off the rails sometimes in the podcast, so it's totally comfortable. So,
yeah, well, let's not do that. I mean, good V-base at all times.
But guys, I truly appreciate these conversations, and thanks for having me on again.
No, and we want you to be a regular, and definitely we want to come hang out together or even individually.
Yeah.
Like, you're just one of those people that like, you're not an echo chamber, and most of our guests are not echo chambers, so don't get me wrong. But when you go onto YouTube and you watch crypto podcasts, there's a lot of like echo chambering going on, right? The same people or different people on different shows with different hosts, but they're all kind of saying the same thing. And what's really interesting, I think, about most of our guests, and especially in your case, because you're kind of new, to the crypto space, but you're, very savvy when it comes to, real estate and these other investments, is there's a lot of crossover. So we can have a lot of really cool conversations. And I mean, who doesn't like that kind of stuff, right? Like, it's just mind candy. And I mean, I guess it could be boring for some people, but if you're bored, I mean, as a mate of mine always says, like, how can you be bored when you have a mind to play with? And if you're bored and you have a mind to play with, then probably you should ante that up a little bit and do something that speaks to you, because like, is that really a life worth living? Probably not.
Well,
I'm not saying. I'm saying fix your life. I'm not saying something else. That's all I'm saying.
Well, what's interesting, right, is that y'all label yourself as contrary and out of focus, when I actually think, in a sense, you're the only ones that are actually being real. Like, at the end of the day, like, everybody else is working their life off of context, right? Well, I'm trying to get this point across. I'm trying to do this. We're saying, come as you are, be whatever the fuck you want to be weird, be crazy, be smart, be dumb, lose money on crypto, don't lose money on crypto. But what we're looking for is for you to just show up as yourself. Like, who can be upset with that, right? Because name me a place when you truly get to be yourself. It's very rare these days.
Yeah, it's like when I was a musician, it just reminded me of so many people would come up to me like, man, you're so lucky. Like, I sucked at this for 10 years. Oh, I have to go to work on Monday morning. Yeah, that's on you. Right? Like, I literally sucked as a musician for 10 years before I got to dominate my own life. What are you doing to change it? Nothing. Yeah, fuck off then. Right? Like, people are trapped until they figure it out.
Like the scary thing is that when people such as me, right, real estate, stock market, when they truly understand the power of these communities, and what I always tell, this is my joke about bars, right? This is what I always say. In Austin, Austin used to be real fucking cool. Like, there were some real kick-ass bars where people could be people. I said, every time I walk into a bar, I say, you better enjoy it now before the regular people ruin it. Like, we outplay songs on the radio. Everything is overindulged these days, and at some point you have to enjoy it when the getting's good, and that's when less people are around. you know. And so at
Yep.
some point
All right,
you're
hey.
gonna be, we're good. All right.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm late for meeting. I gotta run.
See ya.
Boom. Do it,
Boom.
Jimmy.
Done.